Thanks, everybody. Bre and Mike, do you want to come on up? So we're going to have a little discussion here. We're going to talk about really the convergence of television and mobile and how television/video is changing remarkably. When I was at Viacom, I remember saying, the next 5 years are going to be amazing for television. I think things are changing by month now. You read everything in the trades, what's going on. Obviously, you saw some earnings reports from the TV networks today, which are kind of interesting. But TV is a little bit under siege, and mobile has a lot to do with the disruption. And so I have some fantastic people here who are in the digital space. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves first, and then we'll get into it and tell us who you are and a little bit about what you do?
Sure. I'm Bre Rossetti. I work at HavasMedia on our strategy and innovation team. And we're in the media futures group, kind of looking at the future landscape of media and how things are changing and what brands need to do to plan for what's next.
Yeah, and I'm Mike Proulx. I work at Holliday running digital strategy and technology and innovation. Similarly, we're looking at emerging media, what's happening, trying to help our clients navigate the very complicated media landscape that exists today.
Do you want to move over closer and we can...
Definitely, definitely.
You seem distant.
It's a little weird.
I will.
I'll move that. So I wanted to lead off with the question of there's so much going on in digital media. How can agencies keep up? I mean, you guys are sort of the gatekeepers for your clients. You have to vet through every new innovation. And what are you doing at your agency to catch up and really be that vetter and add value as opposed to maybe getting behind the marketplace by the time you understand new technologies? So I know it's a challenge. Do you want to start, Bre?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it definitely is a challenge, and I think that it's not a question of volume. I think that from my perspective, it probably starts with understanding what clients' problems are on a more macro scale, and then identifying the trends, the technologies, the startups, the publishers or vendors that can kind of help solve those. I do think that there is a big vetting process, and I guess just kind of staying curious and staying in the marketplace is really important. As you said, things are changing pretty rapidly, not just in TV, but really across the board. And I think that at least at Havas, we have a dedicated team that is theoretically, we kind of have the headspace, I guess, to focus on new technology and kind of understanding that independently of the day job that the rest of our agency also has.
How about you, Mike?
Yeah, we're not adding value to our clients unless we're staying ahead of them. And so we do a number of things at the agency. First of all, we have great relationships with all of our media partners and at the senior levels. So we stay in contact with them about what's coming in their product roadmaps. But we also host a lot of different workshops and events. So for many of our clients, we do quarterly innovation sessions where we dive deep into a section of their business and explore that from a technology and media perspective. We'll do prototypes of experiences for them and really help to solve their problems that way. And then another thing we do every year, we put on an annual event called TV Next, very relevant to this discussion, that looks at what's next beyond television. We see TV not as TV anymore, it's really all video. And so that's something that happens where we invite all of our clients. We invite industry folks, other agency people to this event to really celebrate and explore from a provocative standpoint, where's media going? Where's media headed? So that's just a couple ways.
Is it hard to get your client's eye off the new shiny object? I mean, I know there are a lot of sort of companies that become hot and then overnight they're gone, and you guys really have to figure out what has legs and what's going to be there in 2 to 5 years or whatever it is. Is it difficult because things get hot? Like programmatic got very hot right before the upfront, I know, and everyone was scrambling to figure it out.
I would say yes and no. Obviously, there is always a little bit of shiny object syndrome, but I think that we all work in media, but we all work in business, and our clients are all in particular verticals. And I think that there are new technologies, there are new buying methods, there are new vendors that are right for an individual business. So I think the way that we try to avoid that is, empowering the whole agency and our media teams on, what might be next and what might be new, but more importantly, really thinking about what's right for individual clients and kind of embedding that, I guess, within our entire planning process and our relationship with them.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and we're not going to do anything that's not going to support a business objective of our clients. And, one of those business objectives may be to experiment and help future-proof their company. So, we always try to earmark some of our media dollars to next category to experiment and test and learn with new technologies. But ultimately, it is applying the shiny in the new when it makes sense to a given marketing or business objective.
Well, let's shift gears to really television and video. There's so much going on in terms of new platforms. I mean, mobile has certainly been responsible for a lot of this. You've got set-top boxes, you've got over-the-air, you've got mobile apps, you've got over-the-top. And it seems like all of this fragmentation is really making it very challenging. How are you guys approaching the video marketplace, the TV/video marketplace, and what do you have to think about now when you're recommending buys to clients? Are they really thinking about multiple screens when it comes to video? I mean, how are you approaching it all?
Big time. Clients and all of us, we're thinking about where are the audiences. So we're approaching it more from an audience buying perspective. And when we buy, we are looking across screens, mobile devices, different video platforms, and looking at it holistically. We don't put together marketing strategies or media plans that are just television. We look at it from all media touch points across various channels.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think that we definitely are thinking about video holistically, and I think that we are thinking audience first, and then we're thinking context rather than channel. I think that channel is kind of an arbitrary definition these days, whether you say it's mobile, it's tablet, it's TV, or some combination thereof. So ultimately, we're really thinking about our audience, and we're thinking about our business objectives.
So, the joke a couple years ago was, this is the year of mobile, and people keep saying it. However, I think this is the year of mobile. Do you guys believe that? Are advertisers spending a lot more on mobile? And certainly, you read about the mobile video marketplace as being pretty hot.
I think it's been the year of mobile for many years, quite honestly, and it doesn't have to just be about mobile advertising or mobile video, but we spend a lot of time thinking and planning and working with our clients on mobile utility. Doing things where we're not just making things from brands, but we're making things for people from brands and really looking to solve their customers' problems with advances in technology. And we are always taking a mobile-first approach to that.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's been the year of mobile since like 2011. Yeah, I mean,
2005.
yeah, it's whenever. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I agree. Sure, it's the year of mobile. I think that, to your point, mobile's increasingly about much more than mobile advertising or even advertising on a mobile screen. Mobile is a great proxy for behavior and for an individual, perhaps a better proxy than demographics, which is the language that we typically all trade in. So I think that mobile is becoming, and location data and mobile signals are becoming increasingly important and important in planning across channels.
What do you think the challenge was up to this point, if this is in fact the year of mobile? Is it there weren't enough use cases? Was the data not good enough? Was it the ad formats? Was it too short time period for people to pay attention? I mean, what were the issues that you remember?
It depends what you're talking about when you're framing it through the lens of the year of mobile. If you're talking mobile advertising still has a ways to go. When you think about banners and clicking, is that the right kinds of experiences? But I think where there have been huge leaps forward in mobile have been on the application front, so the usability and utility front that we just talked about, but then also in social media. You look at the fact that social apps are natively mobile. We'll use that word. Native advertising has really helped lend itself to create marketing or advertising experiences that are much more welcoming, that people want to choose to engage with, versus banner ads that, I think are the wrong way to go when you're especially talking about mobile devices. I think that across the board, quite frankly, but mobile devices, they're interruptive. There's only so much screen real estate space that you have on that device.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I mean, I think that, when a new channel becomes something, you kind of take what you know from the old channel. I mean, you even look at radio migrating to TV, and you just have stills with a radio, spot playing over them. That's how that originated, and that's what you've got with mobile. So you've got this kind of imperfect communication from a creative perspective, and I think that that is evolving. I think the other thing that's driving it, though, is the ability to take and leverage mobile data across other channels. I think that from a technology perspective, that has now been enabled, and it's been enabled to a degree at scale. So I think that's changing things.
Is there a lot of money going into TV everywhere apps? Do you see, out of linear television and into mobile apps and video on mobile devices? Is there significant money moving?
Moving in the sense of the client side or on the technology development side?
On the client side, in terms of media dollars.
Yeah, media buys are becoming cross-channel buys. So we did something at Holliday where our media department now its own agency called Trillia, and you'll meet Stacy Shepparton in a little bit. We changed to a channel agnostic media buying model. So, where Stacy used to be the head of national broadcast television, she's now the head of integrated video investments. So her and her team approached media buying from a video agnostic standpoint, a channel agnostic standpoint, and are looking to do buys where you're going to have touch points across multiple mediums and devices to reach your audiences with video.
Yeah, I think on our side, yes and no. Money's moving. Again, I think that we as media professionals are kind of rebelling against the old legacy definitions of channel. I think that you said it when you talk about money going into video, you're talking about Facebook in large part, right? There's 4 billion video views a day there, and they're up 600% in the last 6 months. So that's taking a big share of money. But I don't think it's a question of, fighting between TV and fighting between mobile. It is thinking about that holistic experience and also thinking about the context and what content it is that people are consuming. Because when you're talking about live events or you're talking about sports or anything like that, I think that that's very different than an audience and a context that you might be buying that's more evergreen.
I'll add to that as well that this is the first year that I've seen and experienced clients reducing their television budgets to put into digital. And, what are they putting it into when they say digital? They're really talking about digital video.
No, I believe that. Everything you read is that the upfront is basically down, and where's the money going? I think the money's going to chase video on the digital side, and I think the TV networks probably have to figure out how to keep some of this money. And we could segue into this. I think data is becoming really important for them to prove, TV attribution and also prove that they're finding the right audiences, almost like digital has it, but TV doesn't. So what are you guys doing on the agency levels to build up your data stacks? It seems to me like it's a little bit of a race between agencies and TV networks, and everyone's trying to get their hands on TV data. So they can do a better job and keep the money in linear television.
Yeah, I don't think that we're necessarily structuring in order to keep money in linear or in any particular channel, but what I would say is, yes, of course, we're evaluating technology, but I think our investment is really in people and in expertise to really understand the marketplace and the rapid changing of it and make sure that they can be dedicated to it. At Havas, we have a dedicated video center of excellence, and part of that is about understanding the data-driven TV market. And the other flip side of that is about understanding, live events and understanding news and understanding how you communicate around that, which is a very, very different environment. So our approach is not necessarily about building one individual tech stack. It is about that expertise, I guess, that can flex across what is to come.
We have a philosophy of science plus ideas equals outcomes, and have invested heavily in the science. So the upfront data and insights to really lead to great consumer outcomes. And we've also built out an entire platform team, so a programmatic team that is doing buys and automating those buys across the board. So that's a big investment that we've made over the past year and a half.
Right. Tell me something about over the top. TV ratings are down. I think Accenture said it was 11% before the upfront. And clearly there's a lot of money going to over the top platforms, and then subscription models. I mean, that's pretty amazing. There was an article today talking about how the TV networks have to start really rethinking the model. But a couple questions. Do you think subscription is going to last in the marketplace, or do you think there's going to be ad-supported video always? And if it does become subscription-based, what are advertisers going to do without a place to advertise in video? I mean, it's kind of an interesting conundrum.
I mean, I don't know that subscription-based and ad-supported are mutually exclusive, or that they will remain mutually exclusive. I mean, the reality is between data partners, between measurement partners, everybody, every dollar is getting divided by more and more people. So I don't think that there's going to be a pure play for either in the future. But I do think that subscription models are very interesting, and I think obviously we're on the lookout for what Apple does and what they didn't do at their WWDC and what hopefully they'll do in January. I think that they could be a huge disruptor of the space if their SVOD service comes to bear, and if it does actually have live local programming as it's rumored to do. I think when you look at the likes of like a Cablevision and what they're doing in terms of selling on individual services like Hulu or like HBO Go to their providers, that's a really interesting model, because you've got somebody who is more of a traditional sort of MSO, and they are selling those subscription video things so that actually consumers can kind of customize and program for themselves. And I think that that's probably a fairly progressive model. The other thing I would kind of point to is AT&T and DirecTV, and obviously what's going on there. And I think that increasingly it's going to be about programming content around interests and individuals, and that might manifest itself through subscriptions, but I think undoubtedly it will manifest itself as well in an ad-supported model.
We can break this down very simply. People want great content, and they want to pay for only the content that they want to consume, and not all of the extras. So the question becomes, what is the financial and business model that can sustain the people that are creating the great content to be able to put it on for people, and what are the distribution mechanisms to get it out to audiences? And that's what all needs to be figured out in this new world of OTT. And it gets really complicated when you look at the original programming that's being created outside of the television networks. So, we've talked about Netflix. You look at what's happening on Amazon Prime. YouTube Studios is making a whole foray into original programming. What's going to happen when there's more and more amazingly awesome content that is winning Emmys and Golden Globes that are outside of the cable and broadcast networks? I think that's what we have to be paying attention to, and how are we getting access to that content in a way that makes financial sense for the providers.
Totally agree, and measuring it all. I mean, I think that's a huge challenge. I mean, it was pretty easy when there were 5 networks and there was Nielsen and no problems. And then all of a sudden, the fragmentation is exploding to the point where there's this huge long tail now of video. And I think there are going to be a lot of really interesting ways to measure television now that are way outside of just modeling off of 20,000 homes. It's just not going to work. So programmatic, I mean, it was huge during the upfront. How prevalent is it? I mean, I know there's a lot of programmatic buying going on in digital video, but how are you guys balancing sort of buying, I guess, high-end content versus programmatic, which seems to sort of commoditize video to a certain extent? I mean, do you think it is commoditizing it? Is it sort of becoming almost an audience buy as opposed to trying to reach out and find the right contextual, environment and content?
When it comes to programmatic television, this is still a nascent and quickly emerging space right now. And the stats are, in 2014, about 3% of television was bought programmatically. Expectations are that it'll be somewhere around 5%.
This is linear television?
This is linear television. And it is also complicated in the sense that the television networks aren't going to want to give their premium inventory up to the programmatic buys. So, this is all a quickly emerging nascent space. But I would absolutely be sure to re-ask this question to Stacy when she's up here after, because her middle name is programmatic, and this is a space that she's just studying really, really closely. She speaks on a whole bunch of different panels about this topic, but it's one where that we're plugged into very much.
Yeah, I would say, programmatic and programmatic linear TV are probably two slightly different conversations. I think that both relevant. I think that the one mistake that people make sometimes is they talk about programmatic like it's a strategy. It's a way to access your audience. It's a buying methodology. And I think when you talk about it from that perspective, that reframes things. And I think when you can be more efficient and when you can reach an individual or an audience more efficiently and more effectively, that makes a whole lot of sense. As Mike said, linear TV, there's a lot at play from legacy commercial models and releasing of premium content, as well as sort of technology infrastructure that might exist to a larger degree when you're talking just about the digital space.
How are publishers addressing this? They've got their sales teams, and then they're also selling programmatically. Are they selling different inventory programmatically than their sales team? How are they balancing it, and how are they not getting into some pricing conflicts in terms of, sponsorships versus just eyeballs?
I don't think that there's one model is the thing, right? I don't think that anybody has it necessarily figured out. I think the nature of automation and the nature of the way that sales teams are structured doesn't mean that there's necessarily an overlap that we see from conflict of information being available. I think that ultimately, it's a commercial business, and I think that where content is premium, where audiences exist, broadcast and cable networks would like to protect that. But I do think that everyone is starting to be open and recognize that there is a demand in the marketplace from agencies, from clients, to take advantage of the technology that now exists.
Yeah, and most, if not all, of the programmatic inventory is actually getting sold at the local level right now, and it's strung together to give you that national that footprint. And it's happening, you're going in through tech companies to buy it. So it is a different sales model right now, but that's all going to change over time.
Yeah. Do you think, it just made me think, the agencies are certainly trying to build their technology. Do you think ultimately the agencies are going to have their own technology, either through M&A or development, or are the two moguls of the world, going to be doing this? And it's really hard to tell. There are a lot of DSPs, but the agencies, I would never count them out.
I would say if it goes the way that digital is going, then absolutely that agencies will have the ability to do self-service programmatic buys and be part of the auctions and everything else that's going on in the space. Everything's going digital, so I think 5 years from now we're going to be having a very different conversation.
Yeah, I think our perspective at Havas is right now that we are tech agnostic, because as an agency, you work with a lot of different clients, and those clients have changing businesses and changing business needs. So we're focused on the people and the expertise so that we can navigate multiple technologies. What I would say from an industry perspective that I think is probably more likely than homegrown agency, solutions is what's going on in the telco space. So if you look at, the likes of Verizon and AOL, but you can see that happening across the globe. You look at what's happening with Weave and 3 in the UK. You look at Telefonica in LATAM. You look at Amobi in Australia. Like, you see this happening where you've got these telco companies that had all of this, pipes to a degree, right, and have the hardware, and now they're going out and they're buying ad tech companies or ad tech solutions. So I think that's where you're actually seeing the homegrown big tech bets happening.
Yeah, that's interesting. Let's talk a little bit about location-based mobile. Beacons, the whole bit. It's one of those things that's evolving, but you read articles. Are you guys using mobile location capabilities right now?
Big time, yeah, in all sorts of ways, and we're also experimenting and piloting with various clients on using it in their stores and their locations and their restaurants. There's something very interesting about the fact that media has become, and advertising, quite frankly, has become more personal than ever before. And it's this kind of technology that enables that level of personalization and customization. So we have to be experimenting with beacons right now.
Yeah, we absolutely are. Beacons as well as location data as a whole. I think that there's some question marks over location data and its veracity, I guess, and sort of tile-based measurement. The beacons, to a degree, solve for. But I think when you get into this space, it's a question of, are you using location data or location signals for execution? Are you using it for planning? Are you using it for attribution? Because realistically, it can be used across the board. So I think that increasingly we are trying to look at that holistically, especially where we have clients who have physical locations.
Should be all of the above.
Yes.
Well, awesome, you guys. Just one last question for you. You know, if you could have any wish in the world to make your business more successful at your agencies, like, what would you wish for?
More time.
More time.
Bigger budgets.
There you go. More people. All right. Well, thank you very much for
Thank you.
participating. And let's
Thanks
give
for
them a
having
big
us.
round of applause.